Yeah. First, Don Egan, as I mentioned, is absent. I'm James Gordon, and Dr. Brown.
Here.
Yes. And our Executive Director, Mark Ryder, is here. And our Agency Counsel, thank you. Nancy is prepared as usual, thank you. Angelina Brandt, here. Tim Wiederman is here. And Timothy DeGraff is here as well. Great. Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, so let's start with public comment. We're running a little late and we have another meeting, so please keep your comments as brief as possible. And is there anyone who would like to speak? If so, please identify yourself for the record.
I'll speak. Hi.
First, let me acknowledge that one of our other board members is here. Hi, I didn't see you there, Andrew. So, anyway, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Bobby Cannon-Reese. I'm on the Recycling Oversight Committee, and so some of the people here are also on that committee. We're just trying to educate ourselves.
Great. Well, welcome. Well, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak or say anything before we move on? Okay, thank you. So the agenda is very simple to this. We're going to, Legislator Manu Joe Green is joining us. Manu, we're about done with public comments. So before we move on, I want to give you a chance. We're just about to move on. Is there anything you'd like to say before we move on?
I would like to go after to give myself a moment to.
Okay.
You have an opportunity in the regular board meeting.
So yeah, this is the Zero Waste Committee meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so the approval of the agenda. The agenda is essentially just old business tonight. We're going to hear from Mark an update on the Repower project. So I don't anticipate anything added to the agenda. We all good? All right. So I'll take a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I motion to accept the
Okay.
agenda.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Great. All right. So approval of the minutes. I would accept a.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 14th for the Zero Waste Committee.
Okay. All right. Well, then I will also vote in favor of it. So all in favor?
Second it?
Yes, thank you. So that is now seconded. All in favor of approving the minutes of August 14th?
Aye.
Aye, great. Communications and announcements. The next Zero Waste Committee meeting is scheduled for, I had it written down.
November 13th.
Thank you. November 13th at 5:15 p.m. All right. And with that, I'll turn it over for now to our Executive Director, Mark Ryder, for an update on the Repower proposal.
Sure, and just as kind of a refresher, I'm gonna go quickly through the slide deck that we gave back in April, just and as we have new members of the Recycling Oversight Committee, I think it'd be helpful to go back through this. So the Repower project stands for Reuse Pathway for Zero Waste and Economic Resilience. Next slide.
It's a little slow, so you have to.
You can go next slide. Some of this is a little outdated, and we have not refreshed it because we're in a holding pattern, and so you'll see timelines are a little bit different. But we have 265,000 tons of waste generated in Ulster County in 2023. Only about 27% of that is currently diverted, despite successful recycling and compost programs. The remaining 73% is sent 240 miles each way to Seneca Meadows landfill at a cost of, in 23 it was 11 million, but it's closer to about 13 now. 87,000 metric tons of carbon. So what is Repower? It's our circular economy initiative to divert reusable goods and materials in order to reduce the amount that we send to the landfill. It complements our current recycling and composting programs by creating a new pathway for source separated materials, managing materials that are able to be reused. It's a network of partnerships and physical sites We call that like a spoken hub type system. Go ahead. The project goals support our goal to divert 90% of all waste by 2050. Create, reuse, repair, and deconstruction. Create, reuse, repair, and deconstruction jobs. Generate revenue through the sale of reclaimed materials and products. Educate the public on the benefits of reuse and repair. Extend the lifespan of materials and encourage sustainable building practices. So this started, Ulster County did a Reuse Innovation Center feasibility study back in Manna 2022, because I think it happened as I was leaving county government. So idea is a central collection site, donated items from the public, diverted waste from our transfer stations, and deconstruction salvage materials. There'll be a warehousing and inventory management piece, cataloging, pricing, and sorting, organizing, and cycling, and inventory. We don't want to just have it be a warehouse where it's delaying waste, right? We don't want to just collect items that aren't able to be reused that end up coming back here in the landfill. We're trying to extend the life cycle. Processing and market development. So this is cleaning, processing, and repair, and then identifying and incubating reuse, repair, and remanufacturing ventures. So there's retail sales, direct to consumer. There will be a retail portion of the center. There's commercial sales, so wholesale supplier to existing retailers and manufacturers. Think of your Habitat for Humanity Restore, your People's Place, and other antique stores, etc. Deconstruction and salvage building material sales to contractors. And we hope that once we get this up and running, the legislature will follow with a deconstruction mandate or ordinance of some kind. Education and training, so we would partner with both SUNY Ulster to train in deconstruction, and then there would be access to a tool library for repair cafes and classes. We are lucky here in Ulster County that we have 19 municipal recycling drop centers, MRDCs. People call them the town transfer stations. They are in almost all of Ulster County. People are used to going there, so it makes sense to bring them into this reuse pathway. Clear, so collection and transportation, there will be clear procedures and training for MRDC staff on acceptable goods and materials. Small storage shed, it's called a Tioli shed, take it or leave it. Shed will be placed at each of those sites, and residents can take items there for free until pickup. And then there will be distribution of reusable goods and materials. So MRDC staff, public can request goods and materials from the hub inventory for delivery. So the idea is that there's an e-commerce side of the Reuse Innovation Center where we understand that not everybody is going to be able to get to the Kingston area to either donate or to pick up goods. So if they see an item on the website that the operator creates, they can purchase that item, and when the operator is there to pick up donated goods from the shed, they can drop it in the shed with the person's name on it. Growing the reuse repair sector. So a sector building convener, hosting events and supporting the development of new reuse businesses. We have an update on that in a little bit. Sourcing option for businesses, so providing customer fulfillment in bulk materials, filling gaps in the current retail landscape, and then workforce development partner, helping establish skills and abilities to support deconstruction and repair businesses. We believe that this will have a cost savings to the agency, reduced agency costs. So diversion reduces our transportation and disposal costs, avoided waste reduces our operating expenses. Business and consumer savings, so this will be a cheaper alternative to new products and opportunities to capture secondary market value. And then reducing externalized costs, the social costs of carbon, the burden on disadvantaged communities, and economic leakage. The environmental impact, we believe this will conserve natural resources, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, promote sustainability culture, and minimize construction waste. So our roadmap, going back to the 2023 RIC study. So it was a county-led study, set a goal of maximizing diversion opportunities and relevant community partnership activities for the portion of solid waste generated in Ulster County that's currently being landfilled. Analyzed the waste stream and identified opportunities. It estimated that 13,000 tons of reusable material with a value of nearly $1 million annually. And it proposed a reuse innovation center to maximize diversion. This is where we're almost, I'll go through some of it, but we are a little bit behind. So we're still working on fundraising and partnerships. We're still working on site acquisition and improvements. We are at a point where we're close on the RFP for operator selection and contract. And then program management, startup phase operations, steady state, program evaluation. These are all things that we still anticipate happening in 2026.
You mentioned program director.
The reuse coordinator, all of them after this slide. The management structure. We'll finalize the program, facility design and implementation plan. The agency overseeing construction and renovation of that center, managing the budget and timeline, coordinating with our contractors and stakeholders, and overseeing ongoing maintenance to the RIC property. The operator will manage the warehouse and material handling, oversee reuse and repair programs, operate the retail and wholesale operations, and deliver educational programs and outreach with partnership with those other community partners that we talked about. So capital costs, land acquisition, a lot of this was around a specific site that we had identified, which is no longer available. So I don't want to go through too much of this, but at that time it was around a $7.75 million project. A lot of that will depend on what our land acquisition and operations costs. And we have projected annual operating costs, so occupancy costs, interest on financing, utilities, routine maintenance, staffing, salary and fringe for the reuse coordinator, and then operator subsidies, which is $200,000 that would go to the operator, selected through the RFP process. And then investment in diversion, so it's roughly $10 million up front. Investment, $4.4 million continues to be the property value. At $829,000 net savings to the agency over 10 years. So part of this will be funded through agency funds. We had a commitment from the county for $1 million in support of this project. We have other grants. We've applied for the EPA Swiffer grant late in 2024. The county received notice in June that we were selected to move forward. We met an eligibility threshold. This is new information for the board tonight. Yesterday, I've been checking in regularly, but the email went to kind of the wrong person in the county. And so I just found out yesterday that this happened, and they're gonna be more, they thought that that everybody was included on the email, not just themselves. So we finally got notice, because I had heard from a couple other applicants that this threshold determination went out and made me think that the EPA deemed us ineligible, but it was, in fact, it deemed us eligible, and now we're on to a merit review. So they anticipate winter of 25, which I don't know what that means, but I guess late December of 25, we would have some kind of notification. Next step, so we're still working on identifying a property, completing a due diligence on that property, securing additional funding commitments, which we're always kind of seeking. Hire reuse coordinator, convene the reuse and repair businesses to announce a program launch. I will have more updates on this after the slide deck. Issue the RFP and select operator, begin startup. Actually, so this is the last page, so I'll just get into those updates. I wanted to introduce Kevin Treutler, who we chose as the reuse coordinator. Kevin has an extensive background in reuse, but I'm happy to have him kind of introduce himself and.
So my name's Kevin Anthony Treutler. Some of you might know me as Kevin Anthony, depends if we've been in committees together, you've seen me around the community. My background is strong with Habitat for Humanity. I started here at Ulster, moved to Pennsylvania to reopen stores that closed during COVID. So transitioned those stores from a failing location to thriving. So staffing, getting involved with the community, what constitutes reuse of an item, what doesn't, and then growing those locations and then coming back to the Hudson Valley. So the reuse coordinator is ideal for me because it kind of goes hand in hand with who I am, what I do, in terms of identifying locations, programs, staffing, all those fun things. So I'm super excited to be on the team and move forward as we grow and have fun together.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And it was important to bring Kevin on now. We're at kind of a crossroads again with his experience helping with locations, and also we're close on the RFP, but would like to have another look at it with someone with some experiences. So my anticipation is Kevin starts Tuesday. My anticipation is like either next Friday or the Friday after we'll get that RFP out. And we're working on a site. We have now engaged Deegan Collins as a broker to help us find a location. They have shown us a couple that will possibly work, and we should get those up and running. I still, like I said, when we were going through these updates early, 26 to at least have a location and be working through some contract, having identified an operator at that point, and moving forward with this project so that we can start to divert these reusable items. And even without a location, we can move forward on the piece, and I think I explained this part to the board. We can work on the MRDCs and have the TOD sheds up and running and those pieces prior to the reuse center. So they just won't get taken to a centralized location necessarily, so we'll but helping, and that will all take time. So having Kevin on board to help with all that, extremely helpful. I gave an update on Swiffer already, so fingers crossed, but we're cautiously, we still don't expect to get that grant, but you never know. We at least know that we're still in the running. Gave an update on the Reuse Innovation Center. So Sustainable Hudson Valley kickoff meeting. As you all know, we've engaged Sustainable Hudson Valley to do a report on circular economy in Ulster County, focusing on what type of materials are rich for diversion and really convening, which is what they do really well, convening stakeholders and doing community engagement. So on October 23rd, we'll have that meeting. It's not a meeting open to the public, but I believe you all, we're on the email list. If you're not, we'll add you, and we're gonna add staff because there's an oversight. So any future rounds of emails that will go out will include all agency staff and the board, but I believe I believe all the board members were probably included in the original list. So but we're excited for that kickoff. It's stakeholders that are involved. So, and then after that, we'll have a set of roundtable discussions that Sustainable Hudson Valley and Circularly, which is one of their subcontractors, will put together and really run, and that's getting information. So the first one is architects, engineers, construction firms, anybody in the construction business. That will be the first roundtable. Second one is manufacturers, repair, makers, that type of work, haulers and anybody, waste handlers, so anybody in that field. And then fourth is repair or reuse businesses, retail side.
And that's a series over the course of what, 4 weeks in late October and early November?
The 23rd is the kickoff, and then the next week, I think the next 2 weeks, we'll have those 4 round tables. And then they will come back to us with a report after all of that work, which is still slated for the end of 25.
Great.
And at this point, I'm happy to answer.
I believe Legislator Green had a question.
First an offer, just because of the institutional memory, I would like to participate, even though I might not fit into a category, with Sustainable Hudson Valley, just to bring that institutional memory. But my question is, the agency owns property, and I'm wondering, has that been ruled out in terms of a reuse innovation center?
It is, anything that we have here connects to our permit, and we would, like, we have documents from the DEC that this is not permitted, like, not a use that requires a permit, but we don't want to complicate things by adding a non-permitted use to the adjoining area. So there's acreage down here. We would still have to build a building. There's nothing, I mean, so ideally, if you're gonna have a reuse center, I think you'd wanna reuse a building. That's what where we're geared at. That's what our preference would be, instead of using all brand new construction materials and everything like
Yeah.
that. So what we've really focused on is existing structures, and I think we have a few good choices. We're just continuing to look. But it's mainly why we wouldn't build here. I mean, it's possible that we end up building somewhere. But again, why we wouldn't build here is that we just don't want to tie it up with the permit and any issues that may be related to that.
Yeah, it seems like that could be considered a separate property.
Seems like that. There's also other uses for that property. It won't remain vacant forever.
It's also at a very low level to the river, and if we see sea level rise.
Well, there's different portions of it. There are some that's down in the valley, but there's some over here. I mean, we anticipate having our own residential drop center at some point. So that, and with that, like more year-round full-time e-waste and hazardous household waste collection center. And so some of the area that you're referring to would be used for that. And that's just getting the smaller vehicles out of our transfer stations that are normally just interacting with haulers and large business self-haulers.
And my last question, the work with Sustainable Hudson Valley is focused on repower and reuse innovation center. I've lost track, is there any progress being made on the zero waste implementation plan?
So the zero waste implementation plan sits with the legislature at this point.
Is what?
Sits with the legislature at this point, with the RFQ and
And you've not been notified of any?
I don't believe that, I'm not sure if there's a vendor on contract for that. I mean,
Are there other questions that people, or any insights that people want to offer? It's 6 o'clock now. We have our next meeting starting in 15 minutes, so we have a little time, but we always mind taking a break. So don't force a question, but if you have questions, now's the time to raise them.
if I could just,
Sure.
on the zero waste implementation plan, it's not like work isn't going into identifying materials that would have been in that plan that we can divert. I think maybe before you walked in, I talked a little bit about an RFP that we have out for diversion, which would handle some of those materials if a contractor is selected to move forward. And so part of it is chicken, egg, like if we have an RFP on diversion and we know that a certain amount of materials can be manually sorted in a way that's efficient once it comes here, then we identify those materials and maybe they're not part of the zero waste implementation.
One of the things I had hoped to do before I left the legislature was to sponsor a bill on deconstruction, so that C&D would become a mandatory, and that anyone who was producing C&D would need to either be sure it was brought to a facility or request a waiver if there was some good reason not to. In other words, they would have to, and to start with, all of the agencies that are taking federal funding, and or any project that is taking federal, or rather public funding, whether it be local to federal, would be required, and that would be a pilot to get it started and starting the flow. It doesn't look like that's gonna happen in the next few months, but I would like to work with the agency to draft that language so that I can shepherd it through from the outside. But that's one piece of legislation I'd like to actively bring forward. And I purposely haven't, as you know, pushed it until there is a facility. It doesn't make sense. But the facility is being conceptualized, and I wonder if anyone would want to work with me to develop legislation in a draft form that we can be sure when it is time is already ready. Thank you.
I would just add that there are ordinances out there that exist in New York State. CROWD has those as an organization that they are happy to go around and try to get municipalities to take up. Any major shift like this takes time, and I think you saw that with the food waste, UCRRA, the food waste legislation. Just because we don't have something built today doesn't mean you couldn't pass an ordinance that goes into effect in a future date, because it takes time to work through all those processes. If your goal was really to shepherd something through while you were still there, I would encourage you to not let the fact that our facility's taking a little bit of time, because I think if you were to set an effective date in the future when this goes into effect, we could probably meet that date and work with you.
Are you projecting that the Tivoli sheds would be at the existing transfer stations? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Seems like a good idea. I also like the idea of not building a building, because I think that's just gonna be, going forward, prohibitively expensive, you know? And, Kevin seems like a great idea.
Thank you.
So is the zero waste implementation plan stuck in committee on the legislature? Where is it?
It's not really a committee, so they put out an RFQ. I think they got 4 or 5 responses. I think the county legislature had budgeted $10,000-$15,000. And I think, so the responses that they got, the lowest response was 3, 4, 5 times that amount. So I think that there's just conversations with one of the contractors consultants to try to see if it makes sense to pare down and get it towards a closer to the budget number, or work in 26 budget to increase that amount. I don't know, because that's, it's being handled by the clerk of the legislature at this point, who I know is dealing with it. I just haven't gotten an update in a month or 2.
if anyone wants to come to the legislature and ask that question publicly, it would be most welcome.
You know, while you're there, there's resolutions for BES and other sorts of things, all sorts of interesting this month.
And just in general, if you could show up and support this idea of, renewing our economy through reusing goods that, I hate the term waste, as Pete Seeger said, and I've said a lot of times, it's not garbage till you mix it all together. And unfortunately, our paradigm is to mix it all together. So we're getting some pushback on this idea because people aren't ready necessarily for new ideas. So people like yourself who see why we're doing this and the importance of it, it's very important that you speak out publicly to your friends and write letters to the legislature in the paper, go to the legislature meetings and say you support this. This is a plan that is not just the Resource Recovery Agency. In the summer of 2024, there was a legislative committee appointed where we looked at all this. I would happen to be on it, and it was inclusive. It had the legislature, the executive, the comptroller, and we all agreed this is the way to go. So this is not just some idea that the RRA is cooking up and springing on the county. The county was on board with this, but we need the public. Okay, so please speak up about about these ideas and say you support them so that we can push them forward. At your town level too. Town, county, state, the state has been somewhat absent in leading the way on this. And they have a lot, obviously, all these governments have a lot to do. But this is something that we're running out of time to deal with. And we're going to need these supplies. We're going to need to rethink how we do it. And we're going to need to start rethinking it and implementing this sooner rather than later. And thank you all for being here and listening to this. It's really heartening to see this. Yeah, accept a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Zero Waste Committee.
And make a motion to adjourn.
All right, I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 5-minute recess. Thank you, everybody.
It's nice legislation.